Alex Hormozi says selling is helping people decide logically, overcome excuses by peeling back blame circumstances, others, yourself, use curiosity, loop objections until resolved, and practice daily, scale with metrics and role-play. Here's the truth, sales is transferring your belief to them. If you believe, they will too.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the place where we take the most complex frameworks, we boil them down to their essence, and we hand them straight to you.
Oh, yeah.
And today we have a truly fascinating stack of sources. It's basically an ultimate guide to sales philosophy, but it's all rooted in high conviction and rigorous logic.
Right.
We are really targeting the single highest leverage skill in business, no matter what your role is, and that's mastering the close.
That is absolutely right. And the listener who sent this in, I mean, what an incredible body of work. It's so structured, it's so tactical.
It really is.
But it forces you to build your whole sales process on this.
Yeah.
This really profound ethical and philosophical foundation.
Yeah.
So our mission for you today is pretty clear. We're distilling a highly structured, immediately actionable framework. This is what the absolute top sellers, in every industry are using. And it's all designed to help you understand human decision-making, confront that internal resistance that we all have, and ultimately master the logical process that makes a decision, once it's made, actually stick.
And that core thesis, it's immediately challenging. It actually draws inspiration from the late, great Charlie Munger.
It does.
And it suggests that the highest, the most moral form of selling isn't about manipulating emotions, not at all.
Nope.
It's about using logic, pure logic, to help people rationally justify a decision that they already emotionally want to make.
And that's such a key distinction. I mean, think about it. So many sales processes, they focus on building up that emotional high, right?
Excitement, the hype.
The excitement, the vision of the future, all that. But those emotional decisions, and we've all been there, they lead to immediate regret.
Oh, yeah. Buyer's remorse is real.
It's so real, often within like 48 hours.
Yeah.
That's the buyer who emails you, asking for a refund the moment that initial endorphin rush fades.
Right, because there's no foundation?
There's no solid, rational foundation underneath it. So the commitment it collapses. Munger advocated for rationality not just as like an intellectual exercise, but as a practical moral guardrail against making bad decisions for both the seller and, the buyer.
So our deep dive today is all about building that sustainable, rational foundation. So the commitment actually holds for the long term.
Exactly. And that philosophy it immediately points us to where the real leverage is, the power of closing.
Right. Because selling is happening throughout the whole process, but the critical moment, the moment that really determines success, that happens after you ask.
After the ask. The source calls this the red zone.
I love this analogy.
Me too. I mean, I appreciate the sports analogy because it just makes it so clear where performance truly matters.
So break it down. The NFL's red zone.
Okay, so it's that area inside the 20-yard line. Scoring points becomes way, way harder because the field just shrinks.
Right, the pressure's on.
The pressure is on. And if you look at the stats, over the last 5 years, teams that consistently rank in the top 5 for red zone offense, they made the playoffs 90% of the time.
90%. Wow.
Now, why is that so compelling for business?
No.
Because it proves that closing ability. It can compensate for huge deficiencies everywhere else in the organization.
So you're saying your marketing could be kind of weak?
Your product development could be a little slow. Your marketing could be so-so. Your defense or your internal ops might be terrible.
Right.
But if you can reliably convert those opportunities into points when it matters most, you will win the game.
So that one singular ability to convert in that final high-pressure moment, it acts as this massive hedge against mediocrity everywhere else in the business.
That is the definition of a high-leverage skill.
Yeah.
If you master the red zone, it buys you the time, it buys you the profit, and the resources you need to systematically go back and fix every other problem in your business or, in your career.
It just creates momentum.
It does. And that leads us to defining who the great closer is actually fighting for. Because it's not everybody.
Exactly. We have to operate by what the source calls the 10-80-10 rule.
Right. So if you bring 100 qualified prospects to that point of sale, most sellers, they just spend their time on the wrong people. The first 10%, they will never buy. Full stop. They're not a fit. They're tire kickers. They just don't have the capacity. You disqualify them fast and you move on.
Okay, that's the first 10.
The final 10% will always buy. They just needed a little bit of information And your only job is to not mess it up.
Right. But if you only focus on those easy 10% buyers, I mean, you're leaving 80% of your potential revenue just sitting on the table.
And that is the entire justification for this whole framework. The job of the great closer, the true high-conviction impact player, is fighting for that middle 80%.
Okay. So describe that 80%.
These are the people who have the capacity, they have the pain, they have the goal, but they are struggling internally to make the decision they need to make.
And they need that guidance.
They need firm, logical guidance, and crucially, ethical confrontation. And that's what we're here to learn today, how to fight for that 80%.
All right, let's start right at the base with the philosophy. So this framework defines selling not as, just a transaction or commerce. It defines it as power.
Power. Specifically, the ability to direct or influence others toward an outcome that benefits them.
And that definition of power,
Yeah.
it really sets the standard for the whole relationship, doesn't it?
It does. If selling is done properly, with conviction and logic, it becomes the first critical step to becoming a coach or a guide or a consultant.
How you handle the sale sets the expectation.
Exactly. The energy, the questions you ask, the certainty you project, it sets the entire expectation for the client relationship that's going to follow.
So if the sale is built on fluff,
The relationship will be fluff. If the sale demands rational commitment, then the client is primed for rational commitment when it's time to actually do the work.
and the core belief here has to be rooted in true empowerment. The source makes this really fine distinction. You're not there to help them. You're helping them make a decision that allows them to help themselves.
It seems like a small semantic point, but that is where the ethical power really comes from.
How so?
It shifts the seller's position from being like a supplicant to an advocate. If you truly believe your product is the best solution for their problem and they're struggling to commit,
Right.
you have to advocate for their better future, even if it's, uncomfortable for a moment.
And that dictates the priority.
Yes, keeping the prospect and their goals as the unwavering center of the conversation.
Yeah.
Not the seller's commission, not the sale itself.
People pay the people who pay the most attention.
That's it. If the seller can effectively just vanish from the conversation and continually magnify the prospect's current pain and their desired future, all the resistance just drops.
Because fundamentally, they don't care about you.
They don't care about the seller at all. They only care about themselves and getting their outcome.
Okay, let's unpack this famous closing concept. Selling is the transference of belief over a bridge of trust. I mean, it's a great line, but it's not just a pithy saying, is it?
Not at all. It identifies the two non-negotiable parts required for a successful and, more importantly, a sticky sale.
That's the whole equation.
It is. You have to have both. The first component is belief or conviction. The seller has to have this deep, unshakable belief in the product, the service, its mission,
Everything.
everything. And the sources point out that when a salesperson gets into a cold streak, they often think it's, a failure of skill or process.
Right, I forgot how to sell.
But more often than not, it's because their conviction cup is empty.
So what empties the conviction cup?
Oh, it could be anything. A difficult client who asks for a refund, a bad internal meeting where the product roadmap got torn apart. Doubt is incredibly contagious.
And you carry that into the next call.
You carry that doubt into the call, and you can have the most perfect script, the most charming delivery. But there's nothing of substance there. There's no certainty to transfer across that bridge.
If you don't believe in the map, how can you expect the traveler to take the journey?
You can't. And the second component is trust, or intention. The seller must genuinely want to help the prospect get their outcome. This is what builds the bridge itself.
And this trust is, it's elemental, right? It's rooted in survival.
It is. Humans are exceptionally good at sniffing out intention. If the seller only cares about hitting their quota, that self-serving intention shows up.
In the little ways.
In microexpressions, rushed answers, a lack of real curiosity about the prospect's deep pain. The prospect's primitive brain just senses danger and puts up a wall.
Which is why belief and trust, they're continuum, right? Not just a binary yes or no.
Exactly. It's not just if you believe or if they trust you, it's how deeply do you believe? How certain is that trust? Real, balls to the wall certainty from a seller. The kind that survives objections. It's so powerful. It can actually make other people question their own limiting beliefs and their own excuses.
So this intensity of conviction, that becomes the driver for what the source calls the closer's responsibility. which means you have to ask really hard questions.
You must.
That's a tough one to reconcile with the idea of being friendly and non-confrontational.
But if you genuinely care about their long-term well-being, about their transformation, you have to ask the hard questions.
They're the transformational conversations.
They are. They're often uncomfortable, and they're necessary to pierce through the prospect's defenses and confront their excuses. If they tell you they can't afford it, and you know they spend $500 a month on something that distracts them from their goals,
Caring means you have to bring up that $500.
you have to. Otherwise, you're just colluding with their mediocrity.
Wow, that's a powerful way to put it. You're colluding with their mediocrity.
You are. You're letting them choose the path of least resistance, which is always the path of no change. The person who cares the most about the prospect's success is the one who wins the sale.
So if the seller is more convicted than the prospect,
The prospect will inherently start to question their own excuses. They'll start thinking, wait a minute, why is this person so certain that I can succeed when I'm not?
and that external conviction creates the necessary internal shift.
That's the whole game.
Okay, this leads us perfectly into the tactical foundation for handling objections, which this source brilliantly reframes. They're not objections, they're distortions of reality.
Yes.
Expert, can you give us the context behind this? Because this isn't just, self-help talk. This is rooted in some serious psychological work.
It is. This model draws really heavily on the work of Dr. Albert Ellis. He's the inventor of rational emotive behavior therapy, or REBT.
Which is the precursor to modern CBT, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Exactly. And Ellis spent decades studying why people upset themselves, why they sabotage their own progress. And he concluded that our distress is rarely caused by the event itself.
It's caused by the belief about the event.
It's caused by the irrational beliefs we hold about the event.
And the breakthrough for sales is realizing that every objection, every single excuse is just one of these core irrational statements showing up as an excuse to avoid pain or change.
Precisely. Ellis categorized these irrational statements that lead to human misery into 3 core demands. And when you apply them to sales, they perfectly map out what the source calls the onion of blame.
Okay, let's break down those 3 demands, starting with the external world.
The first bucket is circumstances. This is the irrational demand. I must get what I want when I want it. I must not get what I don't want. I don't get what I want. I can't stand it.
So in a sales context, that's what? Blaming things outside their control.
Exactly. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. The market isn't right. They feel entitled to immediate gratification, and they're just throwing blame outward at the environment.
Okay, that's the first one. The second bucket targets the people around them.
This is the demand directed at others. Other people must treat me fairly and kindly, and if they don't, they are no good and deserve to be condemned.
This is where resentment comes from.
It is. And in a sales context, this is immediately recognizable. They're blaming their support structure.
I need to talk to my spouse.
I need to talk to my spouse. My employees won't implement this new system. My business partner just doesn't get the vision. They demand that other people conform to their needs, and if they don't, the other person becomes the obstacle.
And finally, the innermost core of the onion, the hardest one to get to.
That is the demand directed at the self, and it's rooted in this overwhelming fear of failure. I must do well, or else I am no good.
So this is the deep, dark well of self-doubt.
It's inadequacy, it's avoidance. The prospect believes that if they commit and they fail, their entire self-worth will be destroyed.
So they'd rather stay in the known pain of the status quo.
Then risk the unknown pain of trying and failing. It's the core avoidance mechanism.
That makes perfect sense. So these statements, they construct this onion of blame. And prospects always start on the surface layer, right? The easiest one to defend.
Always. They start with the most surface-level, socially acceptable layer. Circumstances, time, money, fit.
Easy to say, requires very little introspection.
Exactly. And if the closer is effective and logically overcomes those external excuses, the prospect is forced to peel back to the next layer.
Others, spouse, business partner, employees.
They shift the blame a little closer to home.
And once you dismantle that partner excuse, they have nowhere left to hide.
Correct. That's when you finally hit the core. The
Yeah.
self-doubt, the it's my fault, or just simple decision avoidance.
So a skilled closer knows exactly where they are in this process.
And crucially, if a prospect stalls with that common phrase, I need to go home and think about it, that's actually a sign of success.
Really? How so?
It means you've successfully exhausted all their external excuses and you've reached the core decision maker in power. The fight for them is now purely internal.
Before we move into the tactical breakdown of peeling these layers, let's quickly clarify the difference between obstacles and objections. The timing is critical.
It is. An obstacle is something that blocks progress before you even ask for the sale. Usually it pops up during discovery.
Like what?
A classic one is, I just wanted to find out more general information about the program first, or I don't have time to meet right now. It's a generic stall, and because the price hasn't been mentioned, the stakes are low.
So it's easier to confront those up front?
So much easier to confront and destroy those obstacles proactively.
Whereas an objection,
Yeah.
that happens in the red zone.
Exactly. An objection is when they actively disagree with you after you've explicitly asked for the sale and presented the price. The emotional stakes are much, much higher here.
Which is why the best closers proactively kill the zombies, the obstacles, early on.
You got it. And crucially, no matter how brilliant your objection handling is, the sale won't stick. It won't sustain itself unless the prospect truly wants the goal and believes three fundamental things.
Okay, these are the rational anchors.
They are. And the seller's job is to provide so much proof and context that not believing them becomes illogical for the prospect.
What's the first one?
One, the product will get them the goal, the way they want to get there.
The delivery method matters.
It really does. The source gave an example of a gym launch. Lots of people wanted to lose weight, but they were unwilling to commit to the required diet or exercise. They still bought expensive supplements, though.
Because they wanted the outcome, but they wanted to get it their way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the seller has to confirm the prospect is willing to accept the vehicle you're offering, not just the destination.
Okay. Number 2.
The seller and others involved will support them. They need to trust the promises you make about accountability, onboarding, accessibility. They need to believe they won't be abandoned after the credit card clears.
Makes sense. And number 3.
It will work for them. This is the critical final defense, overcoming the I'm a snowflake belief.
That's great for them, but my situation is uniquely complicated.
Yes, I have a metabolic thyroid ketosis or uniquely complex family structure.
So that last point is pure logical confrontation. How do you dismantle that snowflake identity?
It's a logical close, not an emotional one. You acknowledge their unique situation, but then you point to the weight of the evidence. You look at them and you ask, how many success stories, how many data points of people getting the same result would you need to see for it to be more unreasonable for you not to believe that this will work than to believe that it will work?
You shift the burden of proof onto their irrational resistance.
Not onto the efficacy of the product. You make not believing the illogical choice.
Okay, so if Dr. Ellis showed us what the excuses are, the 3 irrational beliefs, we now need the surgical tools to break those beliefs down. Let's start with that surface layer of the onion.
Circumstances.
Time and money, because that's where the prospect will always hide first. So let's start with the classic. Time, the I'm busy excuse.
Right. When you get the time objection, top sellers tackle it from 3 integrated angles. They move from the macro excuse to the micro reality.
So what's the macro or seasonal objection?
That's the I'm busy right now, I'll do this in Q3. The counter argument uses future pacing. You say, totally understand you're busy now, but if you look at your calendar, you're going to be busy again in the future. Life doesn't just clear up.
So you ask them,
don't you think it's actually best to start when you are busy so you learn to stick with this system or habit forever under real-world pressure?
That flips the script. Being busy is the reason to start, not the reason to postpone.
Exactly. If they only start when they're relaxed, the habit will fail. The second life gets hectic again.
Okay, so that's the macro. What about the micro or daily objection? I don't have enough time in my day.
Right. You can't just tell a prospect they're lying. So you use empathy and an anecdote to create a mirror.
You tell a story on yourself.
You do. You might say something like, I used to complain about not having time all the time until my wife, who was so tired of hearing it, pulled out my phone and found I had spent 22 hours on social media last week. That was my wake-up call.
That's relatable and non-confrontational. So the solution isn't about adding hours.
It's about priority management. It's a resource allocation problem.
Yeah.
You're not lacking hours. Jeff Bezos has the same 24 hours you do. You're just allocating your existing time to the wrong stuff.
So the solution is removing the wrong stuff, not magically creating new time.
Right. And the third angle is the pure logical flaw, the when-then fallacy.
Okay, explain that.
This is the sequence error you have to confront. The prospect says, when I have time, then I'll start the program. Or when I feel less overwhelmed, then I'll hire a coach.
You have to show them the broken logic.
It's like saying, when I get better, I'll go to the hospital. Or when I'm strong enough, I'll start lifting weights.
Right. It's backwards.
You have to start the change now to get the desired result later. Postponing the remedy just guarantees the problem continues.
Okay, let's move to the second big circumstance distortion. Money or price. The too expensive excuse. This is often just a proxy for belief, right?
It is, but it's still the most common phrase you'll hear in the red zone.
So we have 4 logical points to dismantle this by reframing the investment. Let's start with the first one. High price equals high commitment.
Right. If the price tag is genuinely a lot for them, you tell them that's actually good news.
That sounds like some high-level psychological jujitsu. How do you make that logic not sound like you're just justifying a high price?
It's about appealing to their commitment to succeed. You acknowledge the difficulty. You say, I understand this is a significant investment for you, but that significance is exactly why you need to do this.
Because when people have skin in the game, they try harder.
If they pay a nominal fee, they treat the program nominally. If they invest heavily, they show up, they implement, they hold themselves accountable because the financial pain of failure is too great.
So you flip the script again. Putting more on the line is precisely why you'll succeed, not why you should walk away.
You got it. The second point is immediately establishing relative value.
The price is irrelevant if the outcome is achieved.
Exactly. If the solution generates $10,000 a month in profit, or it achieves their deepest goal, like reversing a health issue, is the price tag worth the outcome? They have to say yes.
Otherwise, they wouldn't even be on the call.
Right. And once they affirm the value of the outcome, you state, then the objection is not price, the objection is belief. And boom, you've just peeled that layer of the onion back.
And moved closer to that self-doubt core. Okay, third, using a comparison anchor.
This is a classic framing technique. You anchor them against expensive but low return alternatives they might think are normal.
Like what?
The modern education system is a perfect example. A 4-year degree can cost $100,000 and rarely leads to immediate practical skills or guaranteed revenue. But society accepts that cost.
So your program, which solves the problem in a fraction of the time for a fraction of the price, looks like an incredible return by comparison.
You're comparing the cost of a guaranteed solution to the cost of uncertainty.
And fourth, emphasizing the cost of inaction. This is that time tax of ignorance we'll get back to later.
You force a zero-sum equation. You ask them, look, you're going to spend this money either way. The question is, do you pay for the program in money over 12 weeks of focused effort? Or do you pay for it in time?
12 years of trial and error.
12 years of frustration and lost income. They've already been paying that time tax for years. You just challenge them on how that's working out for them.
This philosophy ties right into a vital anecdote about resourcefulness versus resources, using the story of Phil Knight from Shoe Dog.
This is so crucial for confronting that belief that they need perfect resources to start. When Phil Knight was starting Nike, he was maxed out on credit, about to go bankrupt, didn't have money for payroll.
Most people would quit.
Most people would. But Knight, showing maximum resourcefulness, didn't give up. He asked his vendors to pay his company's payroll for him.
Wow. I can't even imagine making that call.
He leveraged every relationship, every credit line, every ounce of certainty he had.
The difference between a self-made billionaire starting out and a broke person isn't their initial resources, it's their capacity for resourcefulness.
Absolutely. And you can challenge the prospect with simple logic. If you got an unexpected $5,000 tax bill next week, would you find the money?
Of course you would.
Yes, you would. That proves you choose to be resourceful when the pressure is external and non-negotiable. Why not choose to be resourceful for your own freedom and success?
You make it clear that lack of resources is a convenient excuse, not an actual barrier. All right, let's move on to the third circumstance distortion. Fit. The not sure if it's for me excuse. This often comes down to an unwillingness to change their identity, right?
It's a deep psychological hurdle. People consistently vote with their dollars and their time for the identity they currently have, the one that's safe and familiar.
So if they want to become someone who is rich or someone who is fit, they have to adopt new priorities.
Even if those priorities conflict with their current identity.
The Sephora anecdote nails this perfectly.
It's a perfect illustration. You see young girls just entering adolescence, and they suddenly start budgeting for expensive makeup and skincare.
Why? Because they're excited to step into the identity of a young woman.
Exactly. The product isn't the primary purchase. The identity they're trying on is the priority. If your prospect is unwilling to invest in a skill or a solution, it just means they're still prioritizing the comfort of the old identity that got them into their current painful situation.
They're prioritizing the old self over the new. And what if they object to a specific part of the program? Like, I hate broccoli, or I hate cold calling.
You confront them with change the change. You say, look, what you've been doing up until this moment got you exactly where you are now. If you dislike an aspect of this program, you have to recognize that changing the change must hurt.
True transformation involves discomfort.
It has to. The real question is whether the pain of staying the same, the frustration, the stagnation, is greater than the pain of change. The broccoli, the early alarms, the rejection.
And if they say the pain of staying the same is acceptable.
Then they're not in enough pain yet, and you have to ethically tell them they should wait until they hit rock bottom.
And to isolate the real issue here, the hypothetical close is a brilliant diagnostic tool.
It is. It takes that external feature, the broccoli, the time commitment, out of the equation entirely.
So you ask them,
If this program were perfect, if it magically delivered the exact result you wanted tomorrow morning, didn't have that thing you hate, and worked flawlessly, would you do it?
and if they say yes,
You immediately follow up. Then what is the difference between perfection and what we are offering? If they can't articulate a concrete, definable difference,
then the issue is purely internal self-doubt, not the program's features,
and you've peeled another layer.
which successfully gets us past the circumstance layer. Now we have to address the next one, authority. The classic, I need to talk to my partner excuse.
This one needs incredibly careful yet firm handling, because this is where emotional relationships and financial decisions intersect.
So first you have to isolate the objection.
Right. The partner isn't on the call, so they cannot possibly object to the program's efficacy or its features or its price. They haven't seen it.
So what are they actually objecting to?
They can only object to the prospect's previous attempts to change, or their lack of follow-through. They're really saying, I have a track record of failure, and my partner is skeptical of me, not your product.
Which brings us to the crucial frame shift. The prospect is asking for permission, not support.
That is the crucial insight. If they go home and ask for permission, and the partner says no, the prospect gets a built-in excuse, and then they'll resent the partner for holding them back.
So you have to appeal to their self-ownership.
Their leadership. You say, I'm not suggesting you ask for permission. I'm suggesting you inform your partner of your commitment and ask for their support.
So the solution is to sell the decision as a commitment to being a better partner.
Exactly. They commit to solving the problem, so they stop being the source of stress or complaint in the relationship. Instead of whining to their spouse every day about being broke, they're investing in the solution. They're showing up as a leader.
And then you use humor to diffuse the tension.
And the guarantee. The source gives a perfect, slightly outrageous anecdote for the highest conviction sellers. If your spouse says they want you to stay overweight and create generational unhealth, have them call me.
That definitely breaks the tension.
It frames the logical absurdity of the partner objecting to a positive change.
Okay, we've now exhausted all the external excuses. Time, money, fit, partner authority. We've peeled the onion down to the innermost core.
Self-doubt.
The prospect avoiding the decision itself due to deep-seated fear of failure. This is where the seller really becomes a coach.
This is the most delicate, but it's the highest leverage part of the close, because you're dealing with their identity. And we move through 3 frames of avoidance: past, present, and future.
Starting with past avoidance, they feel the decision is too fast, or they're scared of repeating past failures.
If they say the decision feels too fast, you remind them of the sunk cost and speed. You say, this isn't a fast decision. You've been making the decision to struggle, to delay, to stay in pain for years. We're just making the decision to do something about it today.
The speed of the decision today is just a function of how long they procrastinated.
Precisely.
And then you have to address that powerful block, the fear of past failure, the don't let it burn you twice principle.
This is a massive distinction. It means letting a previous bad experience, a bad investment, a poor coach, stop you from pursuing a potentially good future investment.
You're getting burned twice by the same fire.
Exactly. We use the dating analogy. Letting a terrible 8th grade boyfriend prevent you from dating for the rest of your life is completely illogical. Yet people apply that exact logic to their finances and their health.
So it's not the past event stopping me. It's my present decision to let that event dictate my future.
That's the distinction.
Yeah.
And you have to confront their exhaustion. Are you tired of another year of almost hitting your goals? You remind them the cost isn't what the program costs today, it's how much inaction has compounded and cost them up to this point.
Okay, moving to present avoidance. Indecision, where they stall with, I just need more time.
This is where we confront that illusion, using the rocking chair metaphor.
The rocking chair.
You walk them through the reality of postponement. You're going to go home. You're not going to sit and meditate on this. You're going to get busy. Errands, laundry, kids, Netflix. You're going to get in a rocking chair, moving constantly, but staying in the exact same place. And in a few days, nothing will have changed. And the decision has been made for you to remain in the status quo.
Indecision is a decision.
It is the decision to accept the status quo. Decisions require information and certainty, not time. And the seller is the only source of the certainty they need to bridge that final gap.
So you bring them back to logic by confirming the 3 beliefs one final time.
Exactly. You confirm the logical basis for proceeding. 1. Do you believe the product will help you achieve your goal?
2. Do you trust me to fulfill my word?
3. Do you think it will work for you? If all 3 are confirmed, logic dictates immediate action.
We should mention the powerful etymology of decision here. It really frames the gravity of the moment.
It does. The word decide comes from the Latin root decedere, which means to cut off or to kill off.
It's not just about choosing, it's about elimination.
It is. So you ask the prospect, by making a decision today, you are killing one future. Which future are you killing? The future of your dreams or the future of your past failures?
That forces a sharp binary choice where avoidance is logically impossible. Finally, future avoidance. Magnifying the pain of the effort ahead.
We use future pacing to make the pain of inaction concrete. What does 5 more years of doing exactly what you're doing now look like? If they describe a place they desperately don't want to be.
You ask them to confront the fact that they're voting for that future by delaying their decision today.
And we return to pure risk-based logic with the options, considering the options close, the logical close.
This is especially good when there's a strong guarantee, right?
Yes, it is, because it minimizes their perceived downside.
Well,
You just frame the options neutrally. Option 1, do the thing, get the result. Awesome.
option 2, don't do the thing, don't get the result.
Guaranteed failure.
Yeah.
Accepting the status quo.
And option 3,
Do the thing, but don't get the result. This is risk-free because of the guarantee.
Yeah.
You get your money or time back. The logical choice is always option 3.
the risk-free path with maximum potential upside.
And you just emphasize they don't need to be perfect. They just need to be directionally ratcheted.
Right. Is this decision going to get you closer to your goal or further away?
If it's closer, the remaining objections are just noise.
They are. And the ultimate confrontation, the bonus reason, the loop. This is the final chain breaker.
Okay, what's the loop?
You tie the exact reason the prospect is telling themselves not to do it, I can't afford it, I don't have time, to the very reason they need to do it.
So the problem is the reason for the solution.
The financial struggle or the lack of time is the biggest chain holding them back. And investing in a skill or a solution is the only way to break that chain. You say, you're telling me you can't afford it, and that is precisely why you must invest in the skill that solves that problem permanently. Wow. Okay, we're shifting now from individual psychology to sales execution and organizational mastery. For high performers who are already solid closers, the job evolves.
It does. The sources boil the job of a top salesperson down to 3 fundamental high-level roles.
Which are meta skills, right?
They are. They have to be executed consistently over a long period. 1, maximize the number of opportunities flowing into the funnel.
2, convert the highest possible percentage of those opportunities.
And 3, do both consistently and sustainably over time.
Let's focus on number 1, maximizing opportunities. Efficiency. The most basic yet strongest predictor of success here is just simple availability.
Availability trumps talent if the talent is only available 9 to 5. Top sellers have the most total available hours. That means working weekends and evenings.
Because that's when the middle 80% are actually free to talk.
The working parents, the busy executives, you have to be there when they are.
The nail salon anecdote illustrates this perfectly.
It does. A client needed a specific service, and they needed it quickly. They called 5 salons. 4 told them they can book next week.
The 5th squeezed them in that afternoon.
And that 5th salon won the customer? Likely for life, just by being available. Being egotistical about your working hours just loses you money.
They also use these high-velocity tactics, like pulling up calls to increase the flow.
This is a key efficiency hack. If a qualified lead books an appointment way out on, say, Thursday, the best sellers call them today.
They qualify them.
And if the lead is hot and ready to move, they drag that appointment to the present moment. This increases sales velocity, and it gives you two huge benefits.
What are they?
The show-up rate for same-day appointments is always way higher, and it opens up that Thursday slot for another booking. You're constantly accelerating the pipeline.
High volume and data-driven resilience are also fundamental here.
Top performers view sales as a system, not a personal popularity contest. They never take rejection personally. It's a numbers game.
They just plow forward with high volume.
High volume, meticulous data tracking. And they treat every no as data that just optimizes the next yes.
And then there's a meta skill for maximizing opportunity that costs $0. Generating referrals. Bam, fam.
Bam, fam. Book a meeting from a meeting. The rule is simple. Never end a call without the next step scheduled. Ever.
And if the call was successful, you use the compliment sandwich to ask for referrals. How does that work?
You start by complimenting their quality. You say, who do you know who is as awesome as you? That's the first piece of bread.
And then the filling.
And who would also benefit from this program. Referral close rates are staggering, often 80 to 90%.
Because the bridge of trust is already built.
It is. One good referral just cuts your customer acquisition cost by a massive margin.
Okay, moving to number 2. Maximizing conversion. Preparation and presence. Preparation seems like table stakes, but the source emphasizes how crucial just a few minutes are.
You have to dedicate 5 to 10 minutes of research before every single call, about 10% of the call time, because it builds instant rapport. It satisfies know, like, and trust. When you mention a specific detail about their background, their recent promotion, their hobby, the prospect feels instantly known and respected.
It fast-tracks trust way faster than generic small talk.
It is disrespectful to show up to a high-stakes meeting without knowing the person across the table.
And this preparation, it shifts the seller's identity from salesman to consultant.
Absolutely. The best salespeople take extensive notes constantly. They absorb details like the names of the prospect's kids, a major business milestone.
It proves their recommendations are contextual.
So when they propose the solution, the prospect doesn't hear a canned pitch. They assume it works for them, because the consultant has clearly absorbed the specifics of their life.
What about the conversation itself, the listening ratio?
The most brilliant salespeople listen twice as much as they talk. They're not being interrogated, they're doing the interrogating, asking deep, probing questions to uncover the real pain.
The goal is to educate the prospect through their own answers.
So the prospect comes to their own conclusion that the solution is necessary.
The advice is to be like smoke, slippery and elusive.
You answer questions with questions. Unless you already know, your statement will align perfectly with what they want. The core principle is psychological. They believe nothing that you say.
But they believe everything that they say.
Everything. So if a prospect asks, what makes you different from the competition? You immediately return, that's a great question. Based on your goals, what are the 3 most critical elements you're looking for?
They articulate the criteria and you just confirm you fit. And the final point on execution is mastering the delivery. Breathe the script.
Conciseness is currency. Salespeople have to memorize the script so thoroughly that they can focus 100% on the prospect's nuanced responses without thinking about the next line.
It prevents the script from expanding unnecessarily.
A mediocre closer, worried about silence, might add a cough or a second question right before the ask because it worked one time. It just lengthens the process and lowers efficiency.
And the final meta skill here is killing zombies.
Which is the proactive destruction of obstacles before the price is ever mentioned.
It's anticipatory selling.
The best sellers know exactly which bombs are coming. Circumstances, others, self-doubt. And they address them proactively during discovery.
Because it's easier to address an obstacle before the price is on the table.
Way easier to diffuse it than to handle an objection when the stakes and emotions are high. The cleaner the path to the red zone, the higher your close rate will be.
This systematic focus leads directly to organizational optimization. The sources provide a powerful scaling case study on how tracking the right data and fixing processes led to massive, immediate growth.
This is so critical for scaling teams. The key insight is that the goal isn't just to improve the close rate, it's to optimize across the entire funnel.
Schedule rate, show rate, offer rate.
Close rate, cash collected, units sold. Improving show rate by 20% by hiring a good nurture specialist is mathematically as valuable as improving your close rate by 20%.
Let's analyze the example of the company that achieved 4x cash flow in 60 days. They started with disastrous metrics.
They were just burning leads. Low show rate, 49%, low close rate, 27%, and terrible cash collected, 47%.
A lot of activity, no leverage.
None.
What were the key organizational fixes that created the structure for change?
They prioritized the WHO over the what and how. They recognized that the current CEO, while a great salesperson, was a terrible manager of a sales team.
So the solution was?
Hiring an experienced sales director who specialized in process management. That immediately solved the managerial problem.
And they fixed the ad targeting.
They started optimizing for cost per sale, a higher quality, slightly more expensive lead instead of just the lowest cost lead. That instantly improved lead quality.
And crucially, they ruthlessly reduced the sales team's size.
And reset high-performance expectations. They eliminated the low performers who were demotivating the high performers, which immediately created a high-performing culture.
So the director was the WHO that solved the problem. What about the process fixes?
These were tactical and compounded the organizational fixes. They promoted one setter to a specialized lead nurture specialist role to focus only on reminders and coordinating appointments.
And that specialist implemented tactics.
Like morning of voice memos and three-way introductions between the setter and the closer to build pre-call trust. It drove up the show rate.
And the script itself was optimized.
Yes. They optimized the sales scripts to ask much deeper discovery questions. They shifted to the iceberg model, focusing on the why. Not just what the problem is, but why it matters and why it hasn't been solved yet.
And they drilled the team on looping.
Relentlessly. Resolving a concern, confirming the commitment, and then asking for the sale again.
So what was the staggering result of all these compounding effects over just 60 days?
Because the fixes hit every stage of the funnel, the results just multiplied. Show rate jumped from 49 to 70%.
That's a 40% improvement in efficiency.
Close rate went from 27 to 41%. That's a 50% improvement in execution.
And cash collected.
Went from 47% to 82%. Nearly everyone was prepaying.
So the combined effect
Meant overall unit sales increased from 56 to 93 in 60 days. That resulted in a 4 times increase in cash flow for that product line. That's the power of funnel optimization.
That structural mastery leads us directly to the framework that drives conversion, which the sources call the diagnostic sales process. This process moved one business from transactional sales to a custom feeling model, resulting in a 10x increase in recurring revenue.
This 7-step structure is designed to control the narrative and build commitment incrementally.
Okay, step 1 is the pre-sale questionnaire.
This is done before the seller even speaks to them. It agitates the prospect's pain and increases their self-awareness of the problem. It builds commitment before the call even starts.
Step 2 is critical for preempting financial friction. Get info and credit card UPFRONT.
This is just framed as standard procedure to set up their account profile. It removes the friction of asking for the card later when emotions are high. If they refuse, they're not serious. You disqualify them.
Steps 3, 4, and 5 are the core diagnostic phase.
Current state. Where are you now? Desired state. Where do you want to be?
Yeah.
Obstacle. What's blocking you? The seller is acting like a diagnostic physician, not a pitcher.
Step 6 is the crucial reframing. Present solution tied to the goal.
You sell the goal, not the vehicle. For a weight loss example, you quantify the outcome. Based on what you told me, our program will get you to a 60-pound weight loss in 45 weeks, and we guarantee that.
The client buys the finished image, not the plane ticket.
They do. And step 7 leverages financial psychology. Incentive to prepay.
You anchor high.
Always present the payment plan price first. That number is high. Then you immediately offer the discount for prepayment. The seller instantly becomes the good guy who saves them money.
And you avoid technical finance terms.
Never say paid in full or interest rate. Just payment plan versus prepayment discount.
The key takeaway through this whole process is that the customer is not buying the features.
They're buying an image, a guaranteed outcome. By structuring the sale around their current state and desired state, the prospect effectively sets the price themselves by defining the value of that outcome.
This entire deep dive brings us back full circle to where we started. That philosophical foundation of power and self-investment. The ultimate lesson is that you and your clients are always in complete power.
Any external excuse time, money, the authority of a partner is, as we learned, a distortion of reality, a false god. If you give power to something external, you relinquish control of your future.
Fortunes are created not just by saving, but by taking calculated risks with a little bit of money.
And the most reliable, highest returning investment is always in yourself, in your own capacity.
The sources reference this incredible, tragic story of a family fleeing the Iranian Revolution. They lost all their physical assets, land, houses, bank accounts, everything.
And this illustrates precisely why investing in skills and experience yields fundamentally higher returns than any external asset.
Skills can never be stolen.
They can't. They compound over time. They increase your capacity to make money regardless of market volatility or political upheaval. The ability to close deals, to persuade rationally, it's the highest returning skill you can acquire.
Every decision you make is a vote towards or against the person you want to become.
And if you want to move quickly, you have to buy time by purchasing the knowledge that others took years and thousands of painful mistakes to learn.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to consider today. Forget income tax. Forget capital gains tax. The single biggest, most devastating cost you pay is the hidden, compounded time tax of ignorance.
We need to slow down and articulate this cost clearly. Income tax is painful, but you pay it once a year. It's finite.
The time tax of ignorance
Is the compounded, non-stop cost of not knowing the optimal process or the highest leverage skill. The ignorance of not knowing how to create, say, $1 million a year through systematic high-conviction sales is costing you $1 million a year in lost opportunity.
compounded over decades.
It causes compounded ruin over the long term.
The mission, therefore, is to pay down that time tax of ignorance as fast as humanly possible.
By making high-conviction decisions, by implementing this logic aggressively, and by taking radical ownership over your outcomes. Realizing there are no silver bullets but movement. Movement is key.
You're not just closing sales. You are closing the gap between your present reality and your desired state.
When you step into the red zone, you either win or you learn. And both outcomes get you closer to your ultimate goal.